this is our next main topic. The Cassian Andor official trailer. Um, looks absolutely stunning.
Stunning. Stunning. Doesn't even like describe it. There was one shot and it stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Like, wow, that looked really, really bad. That was the Star Destroyer above the planet. I literally was like, oh my goodness. They got that from a fan film. They got that exact shot from a fan film, bro. It stuck out. I was like, wow, the CGI so far, like the look of the show looks really good. And then the Star Destroyer came up and I was like, wow, that looks horrendous.
Now, the reason this show looks much better than the show before it, known as Obi-Wan Kenobi, is because this show had no
No
shots done
volume.
on the volume.
Crazy.
All on location, all old school, according to showrunner Tony Gilroy, who I absolutely love.
Yep.
Worked on Rogue One. What stood out to you?
Again, just how beautiful it was. Just the color palette was perfect, especially that shot of the two Tie fighters chasing each other.
Hmm.
Like it was a beautiful shot. I think also like I'm just interested. Like it's a show that is just like I'm not like Cassian wasn't my favorite from Rogue One because I feel like with this show you could have put anybody in that character, Jin, Baze. You could put literally any Star Wars character in Cassian's spot. It's the prospect of everybody but him. The
Right.
Mothma stuff. Just I want to see the Imperial Senate a lot. I just want to see the Senate.
Yeah. We see it
Like
a few times in the trailer.
I want to think, could we see the Senate himself in the show? Like it could happen. Who knows?
I think there's a really good possibility that you're gonna see it. By the way, I love how Stellan Skarsgård says Cassian's last name. It's like
Andor.
Cassian Andor.
Oh,
Cassian Andor.
I love it,
Um,
but
I
it's
am
so
really excited for his character though. So seemingly, uh, he worked on Coruscant. It looks like had some meetings with Mon Mothma when he had longer hair, and
yeah,
I believe his character's name is Luthen or something like that.
yeah,
Luthen.
Luthen, yeah,
And then he goes and is now recruited members of the rebellion, where we see everyone's favorite member of the partisans, Two Tubes,
yeah,
and Saw Gerrera. So it looks like he's going to be kind of the recruiter for the rebellion. Now, you might know more about this because I don't remember. Now, Saw originally was a part of like the official Rebel Alliance and then
yeah.
deviated.
He was basically like he worked with them. He worked with them, but when they realized this man was just a terrorist, they basically
Yes.
unassociated themselves with him. So, because the Empire went against two groups of rebels. They went against the major rebel alliance, and then they went against Saul. Like
Right.
he was that
And
big.
Saw was brutal.
He was like he didn't care about the casualty. He didn't care if innocents were killed. He didn't care if a planet had to be destroyed. He didn't care. It was that thing like, you know what? Oh well, if the Empire goes down, then the Empire goes down, no matter the cost.
That's all that matters. So it looks like Luthen, he may be an Imperial.
Yeah,
That
I the vibe that I get when he's in his long hair. I think that conversation with Mothma is going to be both of them trying to rat out each other, like seeing which one could slip first, and then I think it's going to be like them coming to a mutual, be like, hey, if you know, you know. Were you
yeah,
trying to take over the government with me?
I think it's going to be a thing where he's an Imperial senator, and it's almost like a thing where Mothma has to walk on eggshells about who she talks to,
Yeah.
because she doesn't want to reveal that she's trying to form the rebellion. And I think Luthen is going to be somebody that comes to her side and realizes that he can't do it from the Senate chamber. He's going to be
Yeah.
one of the first senators that we see deviate because uh, Mothma is next, and then Bale never leaves the Imperial Senate, correct?
Yeah. He's still a senator when he dies.
Right. So it'll be Luthen who does the recruiting as more of a field operative now. Um, with the rebellion, and I'm really curious for his story, right? Because it also will be Mon Mothma's story. I think
Yeah,
what the prospect of the show that excites me the most, right? It's new characters, new faces.
yeah,
It's has some familiarity, right? The Mandalorian has familiarity, but Andor's has the same effect. It's familiarity, but it's also
yeah,
new characters, right? New story, different story, and an age that's mostly familiar to us, right? The age of the rebellion, the oppressive empire regime. Um, and yeah, I can't wait to see the juxtaposition between Coruscant and what's going on in the Outer Rim. So it seems
yeah,
like Cassian's planet was stripped, and we see a young Cassian infiltrate the Empire, um, probably in a flashback sequence or maybe the beginning of the show.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think just to see the juxtaposition, and I wouldn't even mind like a whole arc, a whole episode or two or three on just Coruscant, just
yeah.
the politics.
I love, by the way, the visual of Coruscant. One of the, someone pointed this out on TikTok that Coruscant in the prequels was so lively, full of color. Like some of the shots in the Coruscant, it was bright yellow. Coruscant in this is gray, monotone. There's not a lot of color in it. It's a really good like visual aid. Like there is color when it comes to Coruscant, but you can just see when they go in the close up of the buildings, they're gray, they're darker. There's not as much like light on it and whatnot.
Right.
And I really like that. Um, you know, especially like when we look at it, like Coruscant is the home planet of the Empire and the Republic, but we know when the New Republic takes over at Chandrilla. I really want to see, like, you know, maybe the New Republic was just not trying to be superstitious and go to Coruscant for a third time, but you know, I want to know, like, I just want to know how much time we spend. Yeah, like look at that. Like you can see like some blue on the like building for like this like
Right.
little path to walk on. But look as they go down. If you remember in Clone Wars when they did those descending shots into the underworld part, they were bright, full of color, pinks, blues, yellows, oranges.
And you could see even the traffic. I know it's kind of
Yeah,
hard to tell. Remember, like there were lanes going everywhere. Now it
yeah,
just seems like it's a
it's very
quiet,
sparse. Yeah,
yeah, sparse. Just the rich elite there now. It's not even, it seems
yeah,
like probably the dwellers or just even the people on the lower levels have just descended or left or died because the
yeah,
oppressive government just didn't care about them.
yeah. And that's kind of the story of the empire. Is the rich got richer and the poor got poorer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It just I think it does a great job of still invoking the Coruscant we see in the prequels, right? Just visually, but a different tone. And
Yeah,
I love the way this is shot. You can almost feel like you're watching a World War II film or World War
yeah.
One film where we
You can,
see people
yeah,
protesting this oppressive government, this
yeah.
oppressive regime.
You can even see it in the blasters that they hold. Some of those literally look like just AK-47s
They are.
painted
I think
black.
they are
They are.
AK-47s. They
It's
are
crazy.
AK-47s. Yeah.
It's just like it's the most war show ever that for Star Wars. Like
Puts the war
Rogue,
back in Star Wars for sure.
like Rogue One felt like it for sure, but like I gotta think this is the prequel to Rogue One. Um, so yeah, man, I think looking at this show, looking into it, I think Andor has the potential to be the best Star Wars show, even better than the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I think it's all up to execution. I do worry with one part of the show. We have to please remember that this is the Andor show. I do know we have to focus on other characters like Mon Mothma and Luthen and all of them, but I really hope we don't get a Book of Boba Fett problem where Andor didn't show up in any of the episode or in some of the episodes. Even if it's a small thing where he's saying that he's doing something or whatever, that's kind of my worry. But like,
Yeah,
apart
but
from that, like the
yeah.
music, dude, I also
Oh,
it's one of those things, dude. I think Andor. I think like I'm still waiting for it. Okay, I know it's something that I know I'm gonna cringe the first time it happens, but it's inevitable that it's gonna happen. I'm waiting for the first trailer that Disney released with Star Wars that features real world music. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. And I think Andor, honestly, I think this trailer, there were so many songs at first that jumped out to me, like, wow, that would have been like fire for this trailer. But yeah, missed opportunity.
We'll get it someday.
I'm waiting for it. I know I'm gonna cringe each time it happens because Star Wars just doesn't fit real
It's
world
such a
music.
Marvel thing.
That's my problem, bro. Is like I've been waiting for it. Like honestly, I've been waiting for either Marvel to be too Star Wars or Star Wars to be too Marvel.
Right.
And again,
yeah,
I thought the big thing is I was honestly surprised that Disney hasn't introduced like 80 Force gods.
Yeah. Right.
The Force God of Thunder. Or the Force God of Lightning.
So we get a couple new characters, right? We get Cleo, we get this Imperial lady,
Yeah.
Biba, I believe her name is, or something like that.
And that Cleo girl or Cleo or whatever, you gotta like she is Luthen's daughter, and she even says in the trailer like you're slipping, like you're starting to slip. So maybe that's what I think is gonna happen. I think Luthen's gonna die in this show. Like hot take.
Oh, I feel like he kind of has to.
I feel everybody in the show who's been introduced is gonna die, and it's gonna be the Rogue One effect. It's gonna be the Rogue One effect
because we also have to get to a point with Cassian's character where he becomes the way that he does, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, what I'm really excited about is because Cassian is straight up not a good person, right? He does fight for the right cause.
Yeah.
But he's just not a good person, right?
Yeah.
We literally see him.
Yeah. He's the
at the
embodiment
of Rogue One kill someone.
Yeah, just because he knows he's not going to be able to escape from the Empire, so he just in cold blood murders him. It's one of those things that it's Cassian is he exemplifies fighting for the right cause in the wrong way.
Right.
Him and Saul. Like it's one of those things that like Ezra brings it up in Rebels a lot. Like Saul is making change. Like Saul is he's producing results. But people like Mon Mothma and Hera always say, sure, but at like what cost? At the lives of innocents? At the lives of people who could be kept alive and change? I kind of think of Saul as an Arthur Harrow kind of person. You know, you can understand Saul's point of view. He wants to stop the Empire. The Empire is an oppressive regime that, again, makes the rich richer, makes the poor poorer, and is an oppressive government. But I get wanting to take it down, but like at the lives of many innocent people, families, kids, Imperials who also believe in the way that you're doing, or who also believe that the Empire is wrong. You're killing believers at that point now. It's one of those things. Also, like I think like another thing, just to compare him to Marvel more. Saul Guerrero reminds me of the Flag Smashers. Like, very closely reminds me of them. Like, again...
Better written, I hope.
Well, I mean, he already is, but... he in the show, you're just like... I understand why the Flag Smashers were acting the way that they were. They wanted a united world. Saul wants the same thing. He wants a united galaxy. But Saul and Carly in the Flag Smashers blew up buildings with a bunch of innocent people in it. Now looking at it, they are exactly identical.
Yes.
They're terrorists. At the end of the day.
We also have to remember, right, with Saw, right, the traumatic experience of watching Stella die.
Yeah.
Onderon being under occupation by the Separatists. Like, he's been through a lot in his life, and we see that in his physical change and his emotional state. So it's understandable why Saw goes to these extremes, and that it's understandable why Saw is not a huge fan of the rebellion, because to a certain extent, Mon Mothma's also fighting the wrong battle, right? She's tried to be a total pacifist, right? And that was never going to work because there's just not enough people to overthrow somebody. You still need to have a presence, a military presence, and that's ultimately the downfall of the New Republic. Like, it's a balance thing. You can't be authoritarian. You can't be a terrorist as a rebel because it paints a bad name. And as a rebel, you also can't back down from a fight. You can't just be a
Exactly.
pacifist. It's not going to work. So, like, Mon
And
Mothma
yeah.
and Saw are both wrong. If you had to
Mhm.
choose, though, you want to be more like Mon Mothma because it's easier to recruit people. It's more appealable.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
again,
that's a big dynamic in the show we're going to
and
see.
yeah, and that's the other thing is just like you make a good point with Mothma. The reason why the New Republic falls is because of her. Like, if we go and look into the books and whatnot, Mothma, after the New Republic and Empire come to an official end, she demilitarizes the entire New Republic by 90%. Could you imagine if the US demilitarized by 90%? We'd get taken over.
Right.
China, same thing. North Korea, same thing. You demilitarize like that, you're asking to be have you're asking for someone to take over. And that's why the New Republic falls. The Empire falls. They're too militarized. It's too much. And people find an uprising in it, a reckoning, a rebellion, whatever. And I think the thing that really worked was, with with the with the Empire, it's important to know this. Like there were people in the Empire who genuinely believe the Empire did good and were trying to do good in the Empire. Again, and then there were people like Bale, like Mon Mothma. They thought to their core the Empire couldn't do any good. Like there was no good in what they were doing, and it's crazy because again, like Cassian says it in both trailers, like you see them sitting there, you know, drinking their coffee and whatnot.
Fat, satisfied.
Exactly. Uh, it's one of those things that it's just like the Empire fell because they were complacent. They didn't
Right.
care. They didn't take the rebels as a serious threat. And that's why the New Republic falls. They don't take the First Order as a threat. And so it's just, and again, that's one of those common things in Star Wars. It just always happens. The Jedi, they're always going to rise up to power and then fall right back down. The
Right.
Sith will always rise up just to fall back down. Like Star Wars has a common theme. Maul, Freddie Prinze Jr. really put it in that very famous clip of him freaking out. Maul's character is always pushing that boulder up the mountain and it rolling right back down to him having to restart.
Right. Right.
Things like the Empire and these regimes, they're destined for it. The New Republic was destined to fall. The
It's
Jedi
just like
Order, yeah,
Star Wars echoes history, right?
exactly.
Authoritarian governments are destined to fall because the people will always rise up and repress it because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work. Authoritarianism doesn't work. And to be fair, listen, the Empire was terrible, but Palpatine to have such a grip on the galaxy like that in 25 years was crazy.
And
It
that's the
still
other
is insane.
that's the other thing is the Galactic Civil War is by far the biggest point in the Star Wars galaxy's timeline, like at all. But if you remember, the Galactic Civil War lasted 4 years from the Battle of Yavin to the Battle of Jakku.
Mm-hmm.
It lasted 4 years. And Palpatine's reign on the Empire was 23 years. But still, the effect that he had going as far back into the Republic time was too
Right.
vast. Even as a senator, he had massive sway.
Right.
And I think that's the big thing I'm really looking forward to seeing in it. Because we know the Senate isn't real at this point. It's a facade to be like, oh look, the Senate voted this. The Senate voted to increase your taxes by 300%. Sorry. Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
facade. The Palpatine doesn't care about the galaxy. He wants to control it. It's his baby.
Right. Yeah. It's just I mean, at this point, it is just political theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see the inner workings of the empire, just from a military standpoint and from a political aspect. Right. What are these senators up to? They're obviously not doing a lot of political work. It's just pretty easy. You just listen to whatever Palpatine says, you agree with him, and you move on. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see this whole thing of Mon Mothma, trying to be careful, right? She's got to find a
Yeah.
balance of finding allies, but also not, acting like she's a traitor, right? she talks about in the trailer. She says, "As long as I'm an irritation, they'll never understand what I'm truly fighting for." Uh, yeah, I'm really excited for that aspect because at the heart, Star Wars is politics. That's the whole point of it. It's about rebellions fighting
Yeah,
authoritarian regimes. That is Star Wars. So I'm
yeah,
excited for them to get back to the political aspects. This show I'm super excited. A spy, political espionage
yeah.
thriller that I think is going to work really well. And again,
Mhm.
it's it's telling a pretty big story, right? The foundations of the rebellion. But it just feels smaller in scale. It doesn't feel as
Yeah,
like there's no legacy characters that I'm like, ah, damn, they really did that with them.
yeah. And I think Andor will be the first project of the Disney era on Disney Plus or anything without a lightsaber. I genuinely think
I
it.
really hope so. I really hope so.
It'll be a weird breath of fresh air. The Mandalorian dude was this close to being it, this close, and then it was in literally the like final minute of the season one finale. Dark
Right.
saber, so close. Would have been fresh, but I understand it. I guess he is trying to. I guess the show is setting him up to be the ruler of his cult. So
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Um 3 episodes.
I know.
You think it's an
So,
arc?
yeah, I think that's how the show's just gonna be. Like, even though season one wasn't officially announced to be arcs, I think that's just the best way to do it.
I think it's probably I would hope focuses on Cassian's backstory.
Yeah, I think the first episode, maybe even two episodes, are going to be Cassian as a young kid.
Maybe heavy flashbacks for sure, I think. Yeah, and I'm also really curious. You get any Death Star tidbits? You think anything about what's going on with the Death Star at that time?
Maybe
Probably.
I think something I think mentions of like, oh, we're trying to look towards putting funding towards Project Stardust, like stuff like that. I think we'll get small nods like that. I don't think we're gonna
Yeah.
see the Death Star.
No, I don't think so either. Because I'm pretty sure Mendelssohn's back. I'm pretty sure Krennic's gonna be
Yeah,
in it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm really excited. Again,
Like,
the
it's
delay's
really
weird to me. It
really
just
sad. Really sad that they delayed it. 21 days.
yeah, yeah.
3 weeks exactly. Crazy.
Yeah, I am really, really excited though.